Hello, this is Salvatore Vinciguerra, and in this video I'm bringing you to Wekiwa Springs State Park in Apopka, Florida. Please enjoy this video. Wekiwa or Wekiwa Springs, it all depends upon the Creek Seminole spelling and pronunciation of these words of the surrounding area of the state park located in Central Florida. The spring is the main attraction at Wekiwa Springs State Park, and this spring emerges from a 15 to 20 foot crack in a limestone shelf. As you can see, the water is absolutely crystal clear, and it is about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. The spring is a refreshing water experience for people of all ages to experience swimming and tubing in this half-acre pool of water, creating a refreshing and unbelievable water experience that no other Florida state park has in this area. Wekiwa Springs is the perfect state park to just cool off in the Florida summer heat, or even the winter heat, because we have many different climates here and we're warm all year round. So the water is the perfect temperature for swimming, water rafting, kayaking, and all kinds of other water activities that you can enjoy with the whole family. And because this state park is located in Central Florida near Orlando, Disney World, the Space Center, Legoland, and all of those other attractions, it's a pretty well visited state park. And you can try getting in the morning, but then if you try to get in maybe at noon or later in the day, it may be booked up on the weekend, and therefore they're going to turn you back. Later on in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my camping experience, and that's another way to get into Wekiwa Springs State Park and enjoy all of the amenities for 24 hours or maybe even more. Far beyond these beautiful springs that Wekiwa Springs has to offer are these lush tropical hammocks that make this park so unique. There are miles and miles of trails that are just waiting to be explored on foot, bike, horseback, or even your canoe or kayak. And many people don't even realize how close these trails are right to the main spring, and this is one that they've restored and brought back to life, and as you can see, it's very accessible for people of all kinds of abilities. So these boardwalks are a luxury at some of the Florida state parks, and they aren't on all of the hiking trails, so don't expect them, as they aren't all, with wood and so forth. Some of the trails are accessible, but the ground cover is basically natural. It has gravel and so forth, but they still are quite accessible for if you're in a wheelchair or a motorized device, or even for people who want to ride their bike on some of these trails. They're absolutely beautiful. And as you just saw, there are these benches that you can just sit down and enjoy the views and sounds of nature. Now, a hike like this is great for a beginner. It's very short, it goes in a loop. I would highly suggest that you bring plenty of water, maybe some sunscreen, insect repellent just because you're around bodies of water, maybe some snacks, a map, not necessarily, but do bring the state park map, a cell phone, maybe. Wekiwa Springs State Park, when I first started going here, and especially in some of the camping areas, there is no cell phone service. So just keep in mind that at some of these state parks, especially when you're camping out in the wilderness, there's no cell phone service, and that's a good thing. It can also be a bad thing. But I have learned in the past couple of years that they are improving some of the cell phone service in the area, which is actually a good thing in case you need to call for help. At the beginning of the video, you noticed that there were some carvings of some bears standing up, and yes, I have actually been told by some of the rangers when I'm camping here that they've had some very bad visitors of some black bears visiting through the different camping areas, behaving badly, and just to be warned about that. So the Florida black bear is actually a native resident of Florida, and yes, they can be found in state parks such as the Wekiwa Springs State Park. I haven't really had the park rangers at Florida state parks come out and say you must have bear spray or don't go hiking and all of that other kind of stuff. But I do want people to beware that the black bears in Florida and other places in Georgia, Tennessee, the Smoky Mountains, and even Yellowstone, you should maybe have bear spray. You should be warned that those bears are present and they're not necessarily going to come up and be friendly and so forth. You always need to be on the lookout for them. You need to be cautious, and you need to just be ready for anything that can happen on one of these hiking trails. And that's because it's their habitat. This is their home, and we're just walking through it, looking at them. Kind of everybody thinks it's like a theme park or something like that, but these are animals in their natural habitat. And the black bears are actually very strong, fast, and agile. And black bear attacks are rare, but they have occurred in Florida, predominantly in residential communities right next to the state park. Unfortunately, people have built residential homes. So I can see a bear walking through maybe somebody's backyard and going swimming in their swimming pool, or checking out their trash can or whatever. And that's why they tell you never to feed the bears or any other wild animals. In the campgrounds, especially there, the bears can smell food, garbage, herbal soaps, and all of that other kind of stuff. And they do have special containers for you to put your trash into, so that way the bear's not going to come out and destroy your car or your campsite or your camper. So don't leave food out at night at your campsite or any other item, or you just may have some bear or black bear come up to your campsite and visit you and have fun. Black bears love pet food, so do not leave your dog or cat food out overnight on your site. And if you feed your pets outside, feed them only what they can eat at one time and clean up when they are done. So, just some of those basic rules if you're camping and visiting some of these areas. On the Florida State website, they do have some information as to, what if a black bear enters your campsite? What can you do? The information on the website says to make loud noises, bang pots, speak loudly, blow whistles or horns, and do what you can, to draw attention and scare the bear away. So they tell you not to play dead. They tell you let the bear know you are there by speaking loudly and making noise. And if you can set off your car alarm, do it. On hiking trails, you may want to identify yourself, talking calmly so that the bear knows you're a human and not a prey animal. Remain still, stay on your ground, but slowly wave your arms, making yourself look as large as possible. Never imitate bear sounds or make a high-pitched squeal, and pick up small children immediately. So there are all kinds of things that you should know about hiking and staying, especially in this state park, that you can do. And especially if you see cubs around, you need to know that that mother is trying to protect her cubs and her baby bear. So always be cautioned when you're camping or hiking in any Florida state park, especially in the northern areas. And these areas, such as the playground and this picnic pavilion, are surrounding the Wekiwa Springs that you just saw. So there's plenty of different areas that you can explore, and families can spread out and do different activities at different times. Now I'm going to be bringing you to my campsite so you can take a look at what they look like. So I'm sharing the back of my campsite because there's a little bit of nature here. Yes, it's a squirrel, but look at the spacing. Look at what is behind my campsite that I get to view in the back of it. So at Wekiwa Springs State Park, as you can see, it's more of a park-like experience. You are immersed in nature. It's not like an RV resort where the pool is right across the way and so forth, or even the trailers are parked very closely and packed up right next to one another. These campsites do give you some room from your neighbor, and it creates a beautiful, serene experience for you to enjoy your camping. Now, at Wekiwa Springs State Park, there are 60 spacious campsites. Each has electric and water, a fire ring, a grill, and a picnic table. Some sites also include sewer hookups, but there's a dump station nearby. I always like to show people these videos just so they can see how you can park or back up your trailer or your bus or your RV. These sites can accommodate up to 50 feet. So it's quite interesting to just show people the space, the surrounding, how far the trees are from the site, and even how easy it is sometimes to back up your trailer. At some state parks, it's not that easy to back up your trailer. So always keep that in perspective, especially if you're new to RVing. How much room are you going to have with your rig, and even people trying to buy, their first RV. As some people may want to take into consideration before they buy their RV, if they're watching, that if you buy too big of a rig, it may limit which state and national parks you can actually visit with your RV. Especially when I visit state and national parks, I like to consider where the bathhouse is and what it provides. And you should look up that information. What equipment do you need? What equipment may you not have in some of these state and national parks? Now, most of the state parks in Florida do have bathhouses. They're very clean inside. Some of them have laundry facilities. And Florida State Parks has really been trying to improve the RVing and camping experience. So one of the great things about camping at Wekiwa Springs State Park is that you get to enjoy this beautiful spring while you're there, even in the evening hours. Or if you're an early riser, you can get up here and get here early and enjoy it, but the water's going to be a little bit colder, I think, than normal, and the air temperature outside. Keep in mind that there are no lifeguards on duty. Snorkelers and swimmers are at their own risk, and it does help to have a flotation device like a tube so you can just enjoy the area, but keep in mind it is designed for swimming, but I wouldn't recommend diving in the area as there are rocks and so forth. Children and non-swimmers should be accompanied by an adult swimmer at all times. And it is open from 8 a.m. until the park closes, but I don't see the park rangers in the evening hours telling people to get out of the area or anything like that. But do keep in mind that the spring is very shallow in certain areas, and they really don't want you diving or even jumping in certain areas. You will see people in some of these videos trying to do some scuba diving or some diving down here to the actual spring. And it is quite interesting just to learn about all of the different underwater caves that they have here in Florida and how deep this spring is. But they have tried in previous years to have professionals go down there, and they really don't want people to bring their own scuba dive equipment and try to go down there with any kind of equipment like that. So it really is prohibited. So just keep in mind that this is the only place in the state park that you can swim, and it is not permitted in the other areas. I would highly suggest that you go to the state website and read the portion where it says scuba diving and so forth. I believe what they do prohibit is the actual use of the tank assisted or tether hookup breathing systems, but you can scuba dive maybe down there without that equipment. So just keep in mind that you are at your own risk. Now these waters are very crystal clear, and in some of the video you can see how beautiful the water is, and it's just because it's fresh coming out of the aquifer, and this is just such a wonderful place. The spring is a natural setting for a beautiful picnic or a family engagement of some sort, and they have different pavilions provided all over the state park where you can just enjoy yourself and do different activities. Wekiwa Springs was discovered in the 1860s and was originally called Clay Springs after the property owner, and has long been an attraction in drawing visitors to the center ever since. This second magnitude spring expels 43 million gallons, 163 million liters of water a day. The swimming in the area at the spring is just over a half acre in size with a depth of 4 feet, which is 1.2 meters. A swim lift is also available at the water's edge for visitors who may have difficulty using the steps to enter to enjoy the spring water. And let me tell you, it is quite difficult even for a normal person to navigate some of those steps. So be very careful. Don't forget to get in your car and drive to other locations where you can hike in the state park. Look at this terrain on either side of this trail. And yes, you could use it for hiking, you could use it for walking. I think you can bike on here, and it does look like it's accessible most of the way, where if you were in a wheelchair or some sort of mobility device, where you could actually use it in this area. They have different places where you can stop and learn right here about the different plantings, or maybe a white-tailed deer, which they have plenty of in the state park. Especially at dawn or dusk, you're going to see some of the nature, and I'll share that with you later in the video. But this just gives you an idea as to this type of hiking experience. It can be quite warm. It can be maybe 100 degrees here in the summer, which is where I'm filming. And yes, today I do have some sort of cloud cover, but it still could be very hot and humid. So some suggestions when you're hiking in the state of Florida. You could have swampy areas around here. I would highly suggest that you bring bug spray. I highly suggest that even though you may have a little bit of cloud cover, you may want to bring some sun protection, some sunglasses, some suntan lotion, and maybe some good shoes would also be advisable. On a hike such as this in this terrain, you may just come upon a gopher tortoise. And yes, the gopher tortoise is actually protected in the state of Florida. Gopher tortoises are long-lived reptiles that occur in upland habitats such as this in Florida, and including forests and pastures and yards. They dig deep burrows for shelter and forage on low-growing plants. Gopher tortoises share their burrows with more than 350 other species and are therefore referred to as keystone species. In Florida, the gopher tortoise is listed as threatened. Both the tortoise and its burrow are protected under state law. Gopher tortoises must be relocated before any land clearing or development takes place, and property owners must obtain permits from the Florida wildlife organizations before they can capture or relocate these tortoises. So just very interesting to, in the state park, come upon one of these tortoises in their natural habitats. And just when you wouldn't expect it, you'll see a sign like this because I'm actually approaching a very swampy area with some water. And yes, you do need to be very careful because they're alligators. Even it is shocking that there could be alligators, maybe even in some of the areas that you can kayak through in the state park, or even some of the waters that people are swimming in. And I have seen that in other state parks in the middle of Central Florida. So this is a very picturesque place to take a break. And you may need a couple of them. Here's a bench, take out a sandwich, have your lunch, even your dinner. And so this is a very interesting trail in the middle of the state park where you're going from maybe sandy areas to very watery, swampy areas back to terrain that looks like this, which is very shaded. And, just be careful as you're walking through here. There are other visitors walking through. As a good hiker, always make sure that you are saying hello to people and being polite, as you never know when you're going to need people. People may also ask, is there cell phone service out here? And I would say that no, there's not cell phone service out here, and it could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing, because it could be a good thing because you want to get away from different parts of the city life and world, and to just be off, the grid for a few moments as you're walking through this hike, and that's the way it really should be. However, you may need to call someone for help. I don't know, maybe you're exhausted and you can't get all the way through or whatever, or, but I don't know if they really do have service out here. It depends upon if they've improved the service in the area. And when I first started coming to Wekiwa Springs, as I said before, they didn't have very good cell phone service. It was very spotty, and you really couldn't get it in certain areas of the park. So this part of the hike really represents the lush tropical landscape that we have here in the state of Florida. We have ferns, as you can see, in the bottom of the ground there. And then as the landscape is a little bit higher, you do have some of those palms sticking out everywhere. And you also have oak trees. You have all of these different plants living together, and they have microclimates and different animals such as those tortoises and frogs and all kinds of animals that live in these various areas that have here, including those bears that I talked about at the beginning of the video. Now here's a beautiful area where you can actually barbecue. So you can't just drive all the way to this particular spot. That's kind of impossible unless you're a park ranger on one of those carts. However, you'd have to hike all of your equipment, maybe take your whole family, and bring it to this location. And it is a beautiful location just to barbecue, have lunch or dinner out here, and enjoy it. However, I would like to say that this is very swampy, so there's going to be lots of mosquitoes, especially in the summer. But at different times of the year, this could be a very beautiful location just to have a meal out here. I just stumbled upon this little pond here, and I just found it so unique with the colors of the algae and the ferns on the side. But I never expected to find something so camouflaged in the middle of the screen. Look very carefully. It's a little frog, and he was jumping about, and it goes to show you what you can find in some of these little microenvironments within the state park. Only 16 of Florida's native species of frogs are found in Central Florida. And they have various types of species, and some are invasive and some aren't. Some are terrestrial and some are aquatic. So I would assume that this is some sort of aquatic frog species. And I'm trying to figure out, is this the southern leopard frog or the southern cricket frog or some other frog that maybe should be here or not be here in the state of Florida. So if you're watching this and you know your frogs, please put in the comment section, what type of frog you think this is at Wekiwa Springs State Park. So this is what the hiking trail marker would look like where I am. And yes, there's a trail that goes 3.1 miles. I don't think that this particular trail is that long. It actually is a big loop that goes from the parking lot and then goes around back to the parking lot again. So I find that some of these are very nice. And you may want to experiment, especially if you're new to hiking, to take some of these shorter little hikes to see how you do. And notice that it goes from sunny to then this covered forest looking area to some very tropical looking areas. And very unique. This is the approach to the parking lot, and notice how the terrain has drastically changed, and the trail is actually made out of sand as we're going around the loop. Yes, the plantings, the oak trees are more in the background, and then you have all of these various palms and other green lush material here in the foreground, even maybe some cactuses, but there are some flowers, so take a very careful look at all of these various plantings. And yes, maybe you can find another tortoise out here. Maybe you can find a deer in the background. You never know what could be camouflaged in these areas. So now I drove all the way back to where the springs are, and this is one of the picnic areas there. And yes, Wekiwa Springs State Park is part of the Florida Birding Trail, and they have their own website where you can look up various birds that maybe are here at the site. And I really was not expecting to come across a family of these birds here. So Wekiwa Springs is famous for its spring run, and there's some excellent habitats for birding and butterfly watching here at the state park. They have freshwater swamps, sand hills, flat woods, scrub hammocks, lakes, and ponds, and 192 species of birds have been recorded at the state park. The trail from the main spring to Sand Lake runs through 6 different plant communities, and during spring and fall migration, the park hosts up to 30 warbler species. The Sand Lake area may have wood ducks and tricolored herons, and watch out for the red-headed, pileated, red-bellied, hairy, and downy woodpeckers. And yeah, sometimes you can hear them in the back of my videos there. Bachman sparrows are frequently heard calling in the sandhills. Swallow-tailed kites, northern bobwhites, wood storks, bald eagles, and yellow-throated vireros nest within the park. Butterfly watchers may also find southern dog-faced, variegated fritillary, southern pearly-eye, confused cloudy wing, and palmetto skipper. Visitors can choose from 15 miles of hiking trails, 9 miles of biking trails, and 8 miles of horse trails. I would definitely choose a horse if I could find one to ride, or even ride my bike, because some of them are long and you want to explore as much as you can in a very short period of time. 15 miles of river create wonderful opportunities for even more species of birds. So I have no idea exactly what type of bird this is, but my first impression is that this is a family of turkeys. Now, if somebody watching this video knows more about birds than me, then please put in the comment section what type of bird you think this is. And believe it or not, Florida turkeys can be found in these wooded areas like this. So it's not uncommon that you would find that. I just don't know if this type of bird is big enough, especially the mama there, to really be considered a type of turkey. It could be some other type of heron or bird that is typically found in these areas. So if you're just visiting the state park for the day, keep in mind they do have a very nice large parking lot for you that is accessible, and you can see that as I'm sharing this video with you. Here's the boardwalk as we go in, and but if you're camping here, it's one of the best things about the state park is you have the hiking, you have the biking, and you have this beautiful pool of water that is so refreshing, especially in the summer. There are pavilions where I guess you could rent those out if you wanted to, which have more facilities. But as you can see off of the boardwalk, they have this huge lawn in front of the actual spring. It makes it very accessible. They have a lot of bathrooms here. They have other places, which I'm going to share with you in just a second, to rent your kayak or the snack bar. But a very beautiful park to explore and discover, which is near Orlando, Florida, and all of the attractions. So, if you're ever in the Orlando area visiting Disney World, Legoland, the Space Center, stop by the state park because it has a lot to offer. Now you're going to see some stairs here as you go down to the spring. And yes, they are hard to navigate even for the normal person, so watch out. If you're in a wheelchair, there are other ways with ramps to get into the spring area. Here's some basic information on the kayak and canoe rentals. These are some of the prices that they have. I think you can even rent a bicycle. There's this little grill here, and there's a little camp store where they do sell some items, but I would highly suggest that you bring your own items, or there is a Publix not too far away from this area. Wekiwa Springs State Park definitely has a lot to offer their guests, and this is just right up the boardwalk, and you can sit above the springs here and just have your lunch and enjoy the afternoon or the evening. Now, there are some locker rentals that are available in case you need them. I found that this park is very safe, and I felt very comfortable visiting this park. And you wouldn't think that, but there are always people around. The rangers are always walking around doing various activities, and so if you ever needed help, you would be able to get services if you needed that. And if you're visiting the park only during the day, you may not get some of these other unique experiences that Wekiwa Springs can offer. And if you look very carefully at dawn or dusk as you're driving, be very careful. I always try to go the speed limit, not only because of little tortoises that are running around there, but you may actually get to see some of these beautiful white-tailed deer just off to the side of the road. So after I eat my dinner at my campsite and maybe visit the spring for another time just to relax, I think it's a good idea just to drive around to see if you can see some of these deer. And sometimes they're in herds. And this time I had the opportunity to see a mama deer and some of her babies. This is Salvatore Vinciguerra. Thank you for watching this video on Wekiwa Springs State Park in Apopka, Florida. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to this channel, and have a great day. Thank you.